As is the case with every NBA draft, there were winners and losers on Thursday night. There were a plethora of storylines, but the prevailing one was the selection of big men with the top two picks in the draft and the flurry of trades that occurred. DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley were selected with the top two overall picks during an era in the NBA where small players dominate the league. It shows that there is still a place in the league for big men where they can do a variety of things, such as providing a defensive presence in the paint and being able to move around without the ball. The biggest trade of the night occurred early on in the draft process when the Dallas Mavericks traded Trae Young to the Atlanta Hawks for Luka Doncic. Doncic was selected with the third overall pick while Young was selected with the fifth overall pick. The Mavericks made a bold decision and will now build their franchise around Doncic and Dennis Smith. Just as interesting is that as Dirk Nowitzki enters what could finally be his last in the NBA, held there so by passing the torch to the next great European superstar in Doncic 20 years after he was drafted by the Mavericks. Other notable selections occurred later in the first round as Michael Porter Jr. fell to the Denver Nuggets at number 14 while college's most hated player, Grayson Allen, was picked up with the 21st overall pick by the Utah Jazz. Courtesy of CBS Sports, here were the winners and losers from Thursday night's 2018 NBA Draft. There's something to be said for not screwing up and taking the safe pick. That's what the Phoenix Suns did at number 1 by selecting 7'1" phenom DeAndre Ayton. It was a decision that was seemingly made weeks ago, and they never wavered from it. But most importantly, didn't get cute by trying to turn the top pick into multiple assets via trade. Ayton was the best prospect and they made him their top pick. Simple. The Suns also went safe with their 16th pick, too. They selected Texas Tech's J.R. Smith and agreed to trade him to the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for Michael Bridges, who was the 10th pick in the draft. Both Ayton and Bridges have incredibly productive pedigrees and should be immediate upgrades of talent on the wing and at the center position. You gotta love what the Suns were able to do, even if they had to surrender a 2021 first-round pick to get Bridges in the deal. Even Adam Silver seemingly couldn't believe the Knicks ed up Kentucky product Kevin Knox with a number 9 pick. Was it just me or did Adam Silver sound surprised when he announced Kevin Knox pick? Twitter.com/Nansuk9JPQR Knicks Film School at Knick Film School June 22, 2018 Knox may prove to be a great player down the road, but with a glaring need to bolster the talent pool at point guard, New York whiffed by not making the position a priority in a deep draft shock of them. Frank Ntilikina might eventually be the long-term answer as a ball handler, but drafting a true point, like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or even moving up to snatch Trae Young, was the path I think the Knicks should have taken. Instead they end up with Knox, who might end up playing power forward in the NBA, a position he has virtually no experience with. He has a long ways to go to develop into the high-level player for New York that many project he can be. How about the guts from Mavs brass? They moved from number 5 to number 3 to get their man in Slovenian star Luka Doncic, all without having to take back any unwanted salary from the Hawks in the swap that sent Trae Young to Atlanta. The Mavericks have been rumored to try and make a push back to the playoffs next, and in getting Doncic they have an immediate impact guy who can double as a franchise cornerstone in a post-Dirk world, whenever that dark day comes. The Sixers made the safe, and by my estimation, correct pick, by selecting Michael Bridges at number 10 overall. Then they struck a deal with the Suns to trade him for J.R. Smith, a lesser polished 3-and-D prospect who is much further away from contributing immediately than Bridges was. Sure, they saved money and cap space by moving the 10th pick for the 16th, but Bridges' value as a day-one contributor was worth the extra penny. Even more head-scratching, Philly took Landry Shamet with its 26th pick. Yes, I know, another point guard. So now it begs the question, what does this mean for Markelle Fultz's future as a Sixer? We have more questions than answers about this team coming out of the draft. That's not a good sign for a team that expects to be a big player in the free agent market this summer. We won't be able to truly declare whether the Hawks or the Mavericks won Thursday night's trade, but for now it's safe to say both come out winners. Instead of sticking with Luka Doncic at 3, the Hawks flipped him for Trae Young, the player they had their eyes on all along. Young had a phenomenal workout with the team recently, according to our own Matt Norlander. And as a sweetener to the deal, Atlanta also picked up a 2019 first-round pick from the Mavericks that will convey to them next June as long as it falls outside the top 5, according to the New York Times' Mark Stein. I love the pick they made in Troy Brown. I just would have loved it more if they made it, say, 10 picks later. Additionally, they passed up on J.R. Smith, sharpshooter Dante DiVincenzo, and Lonnie Walker IV, all players who could realistically make an immediate impact in Washington's backcourt. Brown's upside is as a potential glue guy with good offensive instincts from the wing position, but HES not likely to develop into the do-it-all scorer they could have snagged at 15. Bamba's record-setting 7'10" wingspan equals his obvious defensive potential. But it's on the offensive end where he could make an impact that few are discussing. The brilliant, mature New York City native has perhaps the highest ceiling in this draft, and he showed it by retooling his shot in the 3 months after the ended grade. This might be the first true surprise pick. Jerome Robinson has talent and could be a good scorer to pair with Gilgeous-Alexander. But HES definitely lower upside than multiple players still available, and his less than elite athleticism brings up a defensive question mark. Also, how is Michael Porter Jr. still available? Grade D. The health questions were real. A back injury is serious. But Michael Porter had the talent to be a top 3 pick, and the value here, to a team that needs help at forward, is too good to pass up. The worry: the Nuggets are offensively stacked already. How will they defend grade A athletic offensive player Anthony Simons, who has a whole lot of unknowns? How does this fit with the Blazers? Their immediate needs definitely aren't for an offensive-minded guard. But this isn't an immediate needs pick. Simons has upside, at least grade C.